everybody. It is Cinnamon Cooney, your Art Sherpa, and today I'm going to show you how you can paint this gorgeous coral reef scene with a cute bottlenose dolphin and some fishies. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to break it down into all of its steps. We're going to explain the color mixes, the techniques. I have a lot of resources for you if you don't draw. I have a grid resource and a traceable resource if you check the pinned comment on this video, the video below, and also in the chat. You can find a link to find all of those. These are designed to make your art experience just a lot more enjoyable, a lot more fun, and a lot more accessible. On the mic, happily today, yay, is my husband John, who's feeling much, much better.
Hello.
He is going to help me do this show today by tracking me and stalking me and watching me with all these robotic cameras, zooming in on the action, making sure you can see what I'm doing, making sure you can hear what I'm saying, all of the things. Also, he will sometimes ask questions that you have in the live stream to me during this live. Now, the best way for you to get your question answered is to put it all in caps. We won't think you're yelling. We don't do that at all. Quick thing, we don't just do shout outs or any of that, but we do answer your art questions, and I am super excited to do that. There is no question too silly or too small to be asked, because that's how you learn. It's not a guarantee. It just means we have a better chance of it. And if I don't get to it, my mods may give you a link to a video where I've already answered that question. So the whole goal here is to help you paint, to make this possible for you, and to get a painting that you love. This particular piece goes with two other paintings, a wave and a turtle. I think they're going to make a nice triptych together. So I'm excited to get into this. Are you ready to just jump on in, John?
I totally am.
Okay. So here we have some of the resources. This is the traceable. You can just print that out. There's a video on how to use these on its project page. I also have this grid reference right here that you can use to sketch in if you're trying to teach yourself to draw in spatial relationships. Here's an example of what that looks like right here. I'm doing this so I can get a picture screenshot of it later.
Oh, hold on. You want me to do that?
Yeah, for the webpage.
I can do some things.
Okay, and then this is your reference, and I do recommend printing out your reference. Now, this is a digital collage that I created, really because coral reefs right now are apparently not doing all that well, and there's not a lot of current bright colored coral in photography, and there certainly isn't a perfect moment where there's a dolphin and some fish all in front of the healthy coral. But I wanted that scene for us, and I do think it's a good idea to use references, and here's why. You need to see what you're painting. You need to be able to see the light and the way objects relate to each other and how they're layered in a piece. You don't have to be completely beholden to the reference. It is okay to deviate, put some of your own flavor into the mix, but it is a good anchor place to start, and it will help you avoid some of the common pitfalls that beginners can fall into when they're trying to paint. Because if you just paint from memory, then you are only with the memory that you have.
Now, before you go, you can really see the grid over here on this side. So they can see that no problem.
Right. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And then we got that. So
hey, no problem.
So here's I have some colors out here. I feel like this is what I'm going to use. I might not use one or two of them as I go, but I like to have this basic palette out. I've got burnt sienna, cad red. Now this says quinacridone fuchsia, but in most paint lines, I would call it a quinacridone magenta. This is light Naples yellow. In other paint lines, it can be called tight knit yellow. I may or may not use it today, but I have a blog about this color if you need to know more and exchanges.
Somewhere I have a button that shows you. There
Cad red light. Why do I have cad red light if I have cad red medium? That's because this will get me some very psychotically bright oranges. And I wanted to lean in today to the coral reefs that I remember from when I was young, when they were not bleached. So super sad about that bleaching thing. Had yellow medium, phthalo blue, phthalo green. I've got some regular titanium white. I have this, it's called tint white, but you can also, and I do recommend having a tube of this around.
Can you go over there? Those are a little bit off the screen.
Oh, okay, so I can move these over.
Yeah, there we go.
Okay. I have tint white and titanium white. And these are fantastic because tint white is very transparent. It can sometimes be called zinc white or mixing white. Titanium white is very powerful, very opaque, very tinting. So that's why I like to have both there. I have some Mars black when I need to make some depth that I can't get chromatically, and I have some Diox purple. It's always good to have a little Diox purple around because, believe it or not, dioxazine purple isn't really a color you mix. It is a pigment you buy. Now, the background that I have painted in and dried is ultramarine and phthalo blue. It's these two, boom, these guys right here, 1-to-1. So 1 part ultramarine, 1 part phthalo blue.
Okay.
And then I dried it and put on my grid, or you could put on your traceable. And I did that today because this is going to be a bit of an involved painting. And I wanted more of my time on today's project to be focused on what we're doing. I'm going to start out with my sea colors, my oceany colors. I love my oceany colors. Ultramarine, a wonderful color. Fantastic color. Phthalo blue, another favorite color. I can't imagine my life without phthalo blue. I'm going to put out some phthalo green. Yes, let's just call them out like that. Like we're so happy to see them. Like they're old friends returning to our palette, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're old friends coming back. Had yellow. Had yellow. Sometimes it's nice to green up your ocean. I'm also going to put out some tinting white. Oh, goodness. There's my tinting white. It's just much more transparent and allows me to change the shade or value of a color without changing the hue.
Mm-hmm.
That's the type of color it is. Like if you add titanium white to cad red, you don't end up with a lighter value of cad red. You end up with like a really peachy coral color. Different color. Let's put out some Mars black. Who's black? Mars black. Very black, black, Mars black. Popular black we like. Yep, it's that kind of Saturday, isn't it? Dioxazine purple. And you can really almost not know it's purple unless you tint it with something or you change it in some way. I'm going to start, I think, with an Art Sherpa cat's tongue. You could use a filbert or a round. I like this brush because it comes to a point, it's got a nice wide, and it's made for acrylic, and it can help me get in these initial bits really easily. And then as I'm going, I may change it. Now, when you're looking at your ocean, right, what you have is the drop-off point of light. And I haven't really put light on him here because, yeah, I think he was probably bouncing out of the ocean. But we're going to actually light him a bit, so some of this reflective light will come across him. The idea is that these top areas are really light blue-green, and as we get down into the ocean, it cools down. Things that are further away have more of a blue cast, even if normally they're bright, and then as they come closer to us, we can see the color. It's really easy to create that sort of atmosphere. Oh, I don't want to put my brush in my coffee. That was almost a moment. Take a moment and get your drink, libation, or coffee out of the danger zone. That's a pro tip, John.
Is it?
It's a pro tip.
Pro tip.
Ringing in my ears today. All right, so I'm going to take my phthalo blue and phthalo green and a smidge of my cad yellow. I'm going to really lighten it with my titanium white. And I'm going to come up here and start to paint this space with a bit of that very aqua color. Aquamarine color almost, isn't it?
It is.
Beautiful gemstone. Up here at the top where the light can come in. And then as I go down, I will just keep adding a little more blue. You know, and as we get away from that hot point of the light, right? You can see that here is that as we get away from the hot point of the light. So light has a hot point in the water that really impacts things. I'm going to end up painting some of my photo here. And I am painting around the sides. That's just so it matches the ones we've already done. Now I'm kind of into a green to blue mixture. I might get my tinting white into it. I want it darker, but not too dark. Right? Because we want this to feel like it's coming down. And we're still going to do some little sun ray effects. Now, I'm getting a nice transition for a couple of reasons. my paint is wet. And when paint is wet and it blends into other wet paint, it does better. As I come down into the deep blue sea, I'm going to get into my ultramarine and blue mixture, kind of around my dolphin. I didn't put in everything on my reference because really honestly, we're going to have to paint around or paint things out, and I didn't want to put too much time into that. I just wanted to have a sense of where things were. There we go. But I leave enough so that I can put it back when I need to. So that's that first little bit that we're going to do. Can you show them from that good angle while I sip my coffee?
Yeah.
Like, let them see where that's at. So we're getting that bright, 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 bright going on here. And we'll play against these colors a bit as we go. And while this is still wet, I'm going to take my two together. And just here in the distance, kind of coming around his fin, we're going to put in some very distant rocks, right?
Mm-hmm.
And these are the color of the background sea is what you're trying to do, just a bit darker. You can only barely see them.
And you'd painted that background a ground.
Yes.
It wasn't you didn't find a blue canvas that way.
No, I painted that ground. Though you can. Frederick's makes some, and you can certainly buy them. Paint things this dark blue coming forward a bit. Just we can always come back and add our coral in, but sometimes it's hard to get values in the early stages. So what you're looking for is that sense of distant blue value. Now I'm going to dry this real quick.
All right. And while she's drying that, I'll just remind you guys, don't use heat, especially on acrylic paintings, because acrylic paint is responsive to heat. It will make it softer. It will make it have some color shift, which will oxidize the paint in unusual ways, cause it to lighten or darken in unpredictable ways. Now, you may see a sheen difference, like it will go from glossy to matte, which will give sometimes an apparent difference in color shift, but that's just the sheen difference.
There we go. Our coffee, examine our painting, think about where we're at. Babe?
Yes.
I left my dome blenders on the hands table.
The
in the
dome blenders?
Yeah, it's the round blender and the dome blenders by Princeton, and I have a couple other ones. Should be blue handled. Sometimes I get into my painting session and I forget art materials that I'm going to need in the project. That's, one of those things that does sometimes happen. You just don't want it to completely derail. Well, it's a lot of cup, but yeah, it's in here. This is John's like, I don't know what type of brush you're talking about. So I'm going to hand you everything that's here, which means I'm going to have to walk off camera for a second.
Correct. Because those were all the brushes on the surface.
Okay. So these two are what I'm talking about. These are number 12 Princeton round blenders. They're just nice and they can give you a really soft effect. And in water, being able to get soft effects are important. Another material I have out is gloss glazing liquid, and I'm going to put some out. This allows me to glaze. That's a thin, transparent layer of color, and it can slow down my drying time, so I have more time to blend. That can be really useful in acrylic when you're trying to create soft transitional spaces. Soft transitional spaces. So I'm going to come here and I'm going to continue to work out some of these lighter little spaces in the water. You can see me going into my tinting. I'm just wanting to make sure that we're going to come back and make some nice values. I just want to get these going. And then let's get a little of our glazing liquid and start to think about some of these rays. It's nice if they have color to them, though.
Mm.
You don't want them to be white rays. You want them to be little rays of light. And they'll definitely be hitting here. I'll go right over my dolphin. I'm going to rinse out. Let's take a little bit of our blue and maybe our tinting white, maybe mixed with a little titanium white. Gives us a lighter color, but it's phthalo blue. And let's come here and touch. You can use just a round. If all you have is a round, you can do this with your round. Just little bits of light. And the light's coming through the water. I use my glazing liquid to keep things from drying on my brush. It's very helpful into my titanium white. Back into my phthalo blue if the color reflection up top is going to be that way. We just kind of get that going, don't we?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a lot more white this time. And let's say here is our hot spot. Might actually change my rays looking at that. Change the way my rays flow.
Mm.
Change the way the rays go. And I can paint this around the top. Different brushes just make different marks. Generally, any task that you can do in a painting can be done with a variety of brushes. It's really important as you're painting to let go of the idea that you need a particular tool to accomplish a task. If you look at the paintings that some of the great Renaissance masters did, they had terrible tools compared to what we have now and still accomplished quite a lot. So don't let the tool be a barrier to your success. You want to make it additive. Stand back often. Don's letting you look at that so you can see where we're going.
Get you. See that whole picture.
I'm going to get a little bit of my turquoise again. I like to weave in some darker values. For the light values that we have, grab some ultramarine. Just about creating a active, energetic surface. Changing the direction of my rays a little bit. I'm going to grab a little of my zinc and my glaze medium. Come up here and kind of add some definition between my rocks and the surface above.
So Lindsay was asking.
Hi, Lindsay. How are you today?
She says, do I need to use a certain, let me get my camera control back here. Do I need to use a certain paint or brush? It's like my paint is watery even though I shake it. So she's having some trouble with her paint.
That I would change. Your paint shouldn't be watery even though you shake it. Now, what you might have is craft paint, right, which tends to be very thin. That's a soft-bodied acrylic. And these techniques are based on hard-bodied acrylics. But I have to tell you, I know a lot of people who paint in craft paints that do paintings just like this. They just use slightly different techniques. You just have to recognize that your paint will be wet longer and it's not going to hold body, but you'll get better blending.
So you must have been like watching Baywatch or something? Because these are, is this hard body paint or heavy body paint?
Sorry, heavy body paint.
The paint's been doing
But
crunches.
like I just said, you don't have to use, you want to get away from feeling like you've got to use a particular tool.
Hmm.
What you do need to do, I've taken a little bit of yellow into my zinc white and I'm
Ooh.
tinting that and kind of reorienting my little radials coming out. Again, I want to really exaggerate things. At this stage, I'm going to get a round, a number 4 round. I'm going to come into my pure titanium white. And I'm going to make some different hard marks. You can see I thin it with water. If you have craft paint like Lindsay has, you wouldn't want to do that.
Mm.
But again, every paint has a different personality, it has a different temperament. Right? If you start looking at paint as if it's just a temperament that you're dealing with, and you're looking for tools that have temperaments that are compatible to yours,
Interesting.
Sometimes it can seem, I think, not always, but a bit judgy in the art world about what you use, what you paint with, where you were educated, all of that. And I think that's just the nature of people.
Mm-hmm.
But I have been here a minute and I can tell you none of that means anything. Like, at all.
It's true.
At all. Some of the best painters out there right now are self-trained. That doesn't mean that they had no training. That just means that they didn't go through a traditional school method
Now,
to get their education. What?
Now, I will say that there seems to be like, okay, I think that going to art school is like the best possible way to go get an art education
Well, it's wonderful.
because
And if you want to work in a gallery or a museum, you need one.
yeah, I mean, like it's
And if you're
so
doing a traditional art path where you're going to exhibit in galleries and stuff, it can help to have a resume so that they can say you were educated and the gallery owners like it, but that's a marketing issue, not a quality issue.
I mean that what you actually learn in art school is pretty amazing.
It
Like
is.
the material science, the safety, how these materials work, how to make them, how to do this stuff. I mean, it's really a big deal what
It is what they
you
teach,
can get
but it
there.
is not the only way to get an art
No.
education, and it is not the only answer.
No, I feel like sometimes it doesn't get said enough that what you do get in art school is very valuable.
I'm not devaluing art school.
No, I don't think you are. No, I mean, but we often. There you go.
There we go. I'm not devaluing art school at all.
No.
What I'm saying is there isn't a right or a wrong.
Mm-mm.
There isn't. Where you get your art education doesn't say in any way who's the best artist.
Mm-mm.
That is not how that is.
No.
And John's right. You do get a lot more art education on material science, backgrounds, art history in a traditional track of education.
Now, we do try to give you guys a lot of material science.
We do. And to be real honest, I can do that because I went to art school.
That's right.
So,
but
they expect you to do certain stuff in art school that you might not do. So what I'm doing is I'm lightening this area down here. I'm using my mix of ultramarine, phthalo blue, and tinting white. Just creating a
blendy blend.
Yeah, just a little sense of atmospheric perspective in the water, right? Because it all begins here, doesn't it?
Well, I mean, that just looks like the background of an underwater scene around. I mean, that looks very underwatery from right here.
Doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
My dolphin is an interesting fellow. I'm going to take a little of my white, a little of my ultramarine blue, more water than I like, and some of my black. I'm going to make kind of a bluish gray. And I want that gray to be cast with a little bit of a tone to it. And the reason is because this wonderful little dolphin fellow is underwater, so he'd have a bit of a cast, wouldn't he?
Mm-hmm.
To his skin. So whenever what you should think about when you're painting oceans. That's a good way to think of this. What should you be thinking about when you're painting objects that are in the water? Think about the way water ripples and breaks up light. It's not a straight beam, it gets broken up by the surface. Think about the way that the coolness and the blue of the water can change or desaturate everything into a blue monochromatic world.
Mm-hmm.
Think about how all those environmental truths will impact your little dolphin fellow.
See, this dolphin is very cute and saying hello, and it's very misleading.
Dolphins are misleading.
Yeah.
I'm going to come up here and add just a little bit of a lighter value up here. And I'm doing this with my soft brush here. This is really because if you'll notice, elements of the dolphin skin are quite soft, aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
The transitions from all of his little reflections and the little spaces around him.
Painting around the edges.
Yeah, just in case we don't frame. Now, as I come down and I get into, darker colors, I will definitely, and I'm going to exaggerate this space initially so that it's what's called blocked in. So what I'm thinking about here is what are these greater overriding values, and can I get them kind of expressed into a space?
The dolphin's having a good time in the ocean.
Yeah,
See, I think dolphins could have a good time swimming around.
they can. And this is going to let me sort of see where I want to bring the water a little bit up more to him, where I want to create those definite spaces. He's not fully realized in by any means. But we're starting to think about
It looks really good.
where he is
Mm-hmm.
in relationship to the objects around him. And then this gives us a chance to think about, if we like his placement, are we happy with, the different little elements of his positioning? Brushing in a nice little.
You're not worried about the chalk at all.
Oh, I'm not worried about the chalk at all. I use the Dritz chalk that is for tailoring.
Mm-hmm.
And I did talk to the company, talk to them a lot. I'm going to sip my coffee. Actually, I could use my coffee microwave.
Okay.
I talked to them a lot about their product. I wanted to make sure that there wasn't any wax in it. I wanted to make sure that there weren't staining pigments in it because those things would make it a really useless tool for what we do. And after hearing back from them, and this is just the brand one, I got this particular tool and it comes with a bunch of different colored chalks that I can put in, and it allows me to do some detailed drawing that is very impermanent on my surface. I wouldn't want to use a colored pencil because colored pencils can have oils or clays or waxes in them that then your acrylic paint can't stick to and you get an underbinding issue. And you really don't want to put any oils in your acrylic paints. You don't want to put silicons in there. You don't want to put oils in there. You don't want to put those products in there. And that's because they literally interfere with the bonding properties of the paint. Not because like anything terrible will happen to you. It's just, it breaks the paint. Thank you so much. Doing my dolphin today. At least I like the upward water right now. I like it a bit.
Okay.
All right. So as I'm going, maybe get into my cat's tongue for a second as I've gotten that going. And I really see that I have kind of a lighter area up top. And I'll add my glazing medium to this so that as I'm painting, you'll notice that I'm exaggerating now some of the lines. That's important when you're painting these creatures because they're very specific curves and lines. to their faces. I'll go ahead and add this little highlight kind of coming in. There is almost a triangle shadow that goes like to the eye and then is along the nose. So you just kind of want to think about that. He's going to go nicely with the sea turtle, I think, today. Do we have any questions?
Let's see here. I was just over here checking out. Can you use gesso to add to the paint?
Yes.
Hmm.
It is a little bit challenging on your brushes. So gesso has a grit in it.
A grit?
Yeah. It can have marble dust. It can have chalk. It can have a lot of additives to it. And those can wear out your brushes over time.
Mm.
It's not a bad thing. It's just the thing.
Just a thing.
And I'm going to just play with my grays and things. Start talking about some of the shadowing and shaping of the little head here. As you do. And I feel like I see a little purple cast that I kind of want to lean into. Exaggerate a bit. I think it'll be really pretty. And sometimes that's what you're doing, right? You're exaggerating a component or color or element of your painting. Let's add some shadows. So what we're looking for is the light and shadow around these rounded shapes. And then when we get a nice representation of that, we'll come over and we'll do a light effect on it.
Now, we're going to need to give some bubble love over there to
Oh,
Patty.
do we need some bubble love?
She does. She was able to just jump in there briefly to say hello, but she sent lots of patron support and love.
Oh, I so appreciate the patron support and the chance to drink some coffee. So I will bubble love.
And
you got the bubble button, buddy?
I do.
Are you my bubble buddy? Let's see how this is going. So we can see how this is coming in, and we're starting to lift and layer our dolphin into the experience of the universe.
The bubble layer. And so,
while philosophically waxing on the school versus self-educated debate.
Well, I did some shameless self-promotion because I saw that you had Calm Under the Sea. It was Under the Sea, Calm and Free, your mask.
Oh, that's right.
I pinned it to the top so that people could see it because there were some folks were asking about masks earlier, and I saw that. They saw the birdie mask.
I'll probably make the dolphin into if you guys want it, I'll make the dolphin into a mask.
That'd be funny.
Since we got to wear them, we might as well enjoy the experience and be fashionable and special and spectacular.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
For those who want to be fashionably masked.
Like, I'm going to wear it, but I'm going to look amazing doing it. Right. That's my goal.
But there is always the soccer sweats version that you could go with. Just get your plain old mask on. But,
get your plain old. It's all good. Any of it's good. Nobody's judgy. No judgy.
Oh, and Stephanie sent some love too. We're going to get her some bubbles next time
Hi,
you stop.
Stephanie.
But she says, thank you for sharing your time in this calming practice. You're an essential service.
Oh, thank you.
So thank you, guys.
It is true that I and the government are not necessarily in line. I don't mean this in a dissident way at all. Freak out. I just mean like my essential services don't seem to be their essential services. I would have been like, hair and nails? No, cannot give that up. That's crazy, dog. Definitely would have kept all the art stores open. I'd have been like, how are we supposed to survive and deal with our stress? You better keep the quilting, crafting, Joanne's. I mean, that's how I'm going to keep from going mad. But yeah, Luckily, Michael's figured out a way around it, so it was okay. And I'm not in charge of anything, which is probably also wise.
Probably we'll just stick to the
I don't
paint
want
and
to even
brushes.
be in charge of anything.
Yeah,
This
well,
is what I say. That all looks like suck work.
that's very difficult work, and we're going to focus
I
on
don't
making
do it
people
even.
happy
I'm
and painting.
watching a spy show right now, and
Which
I'm
one?
just like looking at all these evil villains doing government experiments on people, and I just thought, there's got to be a better way to make money. That looks really upsetting and stressful, and people shooting at you, and it just I wouldn't even want to go to work.
Mm-hmm.
Like, who attracts that? Who's attracted to that job? Criminal activity just looks stressful to me.
So I don't know. I have to say when you were I've been watching you watch. You actually had some really good films on here recently.
Yes.
You were watching The Fifth Element.
Yeah.
We're catching up on that. That was good.
Yeah. Well, I had to introduce my daughter, my youngest daughter, to the Fifth Element. I'm going to come along my little line here, and this is going to be one of the few places I might use some black. And we're going to just make sure that that's a little bit defined, as you do. And I may even come along here because I know I'm going to highlight it. I'm just trying to make be aware that I'm keeping a
Mm-hmm.
sense of space and scale. Blendy, blendy, blendy,
It looks
blendy.
good.
So let's get some more of our. This is just our ink white, and you can lighten a lot. I may actually have to dry this a bit.
Are you?
Yeah, even
Alright.
after all that talking, I was monologuing like a villain, and he still needs a hairdryer.
All right. So yeah, just make sure you touch it up. Make sure that the layers are dry. And a lot of the reason for that is because as you put layers of paint on, if the bottom layer isn't fully cured or dried, sometimes it will lift or it could bleed through, meaning that the color underneath can affect the color you're putting on. That's particularly irritating when you're trying to do highlights because you tend to want your highlights to be more
So here's my
crisp.
thing, John.
What's your thing?
I see that he is scarred up. He's
Well,
been in some battles.
he's been
He's
mixing
fought
it.
some giant squid and all.
It could be sharks. Those could be like curiosity marks from like going into coral areas.
Yeah, but I'm not going to paint those because they make me sad.
Okay.
And you'll do that sometimes. Sometimes something, again, and that's what I mean about the reference is there to guide you, but don't let it be a burden.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if there's something about the reference, I'm going to get a little more titanium white. If there's something about the reference that's kind of harsh in your mellow,
Yeah.
taking you away from the good vibe feelings that you so enjoy when you paint, don't paint that part of it. Don't care if it's there. It's not that important. No part of the reference is more important than your well-being. Ever. Adding a little more white. And I'm using my soft blendy brush. Sort of really help with that. You know, and then it's great to come back and get some little color in, and then you can, yeah, I'm blending it in.
I'm surprised at how quickly he's coming in.
He is coming in very quickly and beautifully, I'd like
It
to
really
say.
is.
Just a little dolphin model.
It was like, I will smile for the picture, please.
He is definitely having a little moment. And I like dolphins. I've painted them before. If you like this dolphins, I have other dolphin paintings.
Mm-hmm.
So
But-
many.
But see, what's really happening is that dolphin's smiling because he's holding a shark head down as he jumped in the picture. Because dolphins will totally mess with sharks.
Oh, I'm glad for that.
They're like dunking on the sharks.
I bet seals like that too. But seals are like, I got me a dolphin friend
That's right.
just so I can swim safely in my ocean now. So again, doing those soft transitions. And then when you come in and you do your big highlights, it will have huge impact to your overall painting. Now let's come down here. Down here, I find is kind of like a little bit more phthalo, but still part of the value proposition of the under ocean. So let's get some of that going. And you can get some black into it. Too much black, friends, too much black. You'll always find me like looking for the shade. You can see this is just a soft line. That's what this is for, soft lines.
Mm.
Soft lines can be very nice.
Getting around the edges.
Just a little bit, just so that it could sit there.
When you're all done getting him in there,
Mm-hmm.
we've got some supporter love to
I
shout out.
love supporter love. Thank you for the supporter love. Appreciate it so much.
Well, I don't want a harsher blending vibe.
Yeah, I got a good blending vibe going here. Don't harsh my blending vibe. Some of this is pulled forward into the fin, and I'm just trying to pay attention to that.
Now, for those who may not be blending inclined, is there anything that's helping you keep that blend going?
Yeah, this brush
Yeah?
and the acrylic glazing.
Ah, so those are two things that are doing it.
Yeah, they're helpful. I can get there another way, but boy, we'll be here all night. There's always more than one way. Don't get caught up in, again, that you got to buy that medium. You got to go buy that tool. I'm going to use some ultramarine here. Don't get caught into that. That isn't what anybody should be saying to you. And just some blue cast to everything. Softening out this fin. Capturing these little soft bits of everything. And it's going to be great because you can get some soft light going on him too.
Now, that is a Princeton blender, is that right?
Yeah, this is a Princeton number 12 round blender.
Okay.
It's a good blender. A lot of artists like it. It's just, they're good tools, and
I'm going to go back up here because we have
bubbled me up. He's looking, but look at him come to, like he's becoming more and
There's
more
my bubble
dolphin
button.
as we
There's
paint.
the bubble button.
He's more and more dolphin as we paint.
Donna sent a big thank you.
Donna!
With a little dancing fox. Donna B. And then scroll up here. There was one more I thought that. Oh yeah, that was sure. It was Stephanie Barlow. She said all that wonderful stuff, and thank you for being an essential service. Thank you guys. Thank you for all the love and support.
I think Stephanie Barlow's an essential service.
There are so many wonderful emojis. Thank you to everyone who takes time to do the little emojicons. I do enjoy them.
And emojis in the chat too. That's good too.
Mm-hmm. That's what I mean. That's what I was
Throw up
talking
a couple donuts.
Yeah, like GB Malin did a great one with like some the little dolphins in them. I thought those were pretty cool. Oh, and Christine Campbell said, the best art teacher ever. Thank you, Cinnamon. And Karen Thomas says thank you too.
Thank you.
And thank you guys.
Thank you. I'm feeling all good right now with your kind compliments.
There were lots of nice things.
I think we're soaping the wall, darling.
That's okay. That wall is not going anywhere.
I moved the artwork out of this side.
I saw. It was a wash with bubbles.
We got to get it out of here. It's going to get bubbled up.
But that wall it's just a chalky wall, so.
I'm going to take a little bit of my ultramarine. I'll add some glazing liquid to it just so that it is a little transparent.
You switched brushes.
To a number 4 round.
Number 4. Art Sherpa round. Dun, dun, dun.
Well, I really like my Art Sherpa round. I won't hide that from you. I do like it. Quite a bit.
Available at fine art stores everywhere.
Yeah, it really is. They're available a lot of places.
I'm feeling very 1950s pluggish.
Are you? Like you want to plug things as if it was the 1950s?
Yeah, a little radio show host announcer.
I'm trying to create kind of a light purple and I'm come up over the eye a bit. It's always interesting to see where, and if you ever have to soften any of these, then you just come in with your little soft brush. You know what you do? We don't have to worry. Glue in there. Soften it up. And wipe it out with a towel and
You switch back over to that blender.
I'm going to be switching between the blender. Yeah, call me out when I switch brushes, babe.
I will try.
Okay. Because I will switch between things. I'm going to wipe out.
Wow, he really came together.
It's going to come together very quickly. I'm going to kind of switch again. I'll be going back and forth between these two brushes. Just sort of making sure. If I have to get some black into it, I'll pick it up. And again, we're just trying to grab these little scents of highlights. These little pops. And I will have to soften all of them. And then I'm going to put what I don't have, which is the undersea lighting on him.
So it seems that you're putting the paint on with your number 4 round.
And then blending it out with my 12. And that's because that gives me a little bit of control, right?
Yeah.
Little blue and ultramarine mix. Let's come here and talk about this little fin. Getting into my tinting white. Just creating those little values in that fin so it has some dimensionality and some shape where necessary. Let's sit back and look at our dolphin for a second and see where we're going.
Not pretty good.
He's coming out. I'm going to get some of my just zinc white. Want to lighten everything up just a shade. And we're going to just bring this up a bit. Again, still using the 12 blender. I've switched between titanium white and zinc white. I am just softening everything where it could be softened. Now, purple and blue, and a little black. Everything that's next. So, I'm going to come in here and shade out his little lids. You need glazing medium to improve flow. Get that going. I like to paint the lids a little bit first. And the reason for that is it's easy to add the creases, easy to add back in any little highlights that you need. There's a little highlight that happens right here. When it happens right here towards the back of the eye. And then there's certainly some coming up here that you've got to get in. Black. Isn't fine enough of a line. The brush over a splayed, which means it made me too thick of a line. I'll have to come back and thin that line again.
Looking over here. There we go. Let me zoom in on there, and I want to see that eye.
Yeah. Were we not zoomed in?
I was not zoomed in. I was over your shoulder there just so I could see what was going on. But now that I can see, you got a lot of little detail work in there.
We don't want these.
Wow.
We want the creases to be thinned. So however you got to thin those creases, you got to do it.
Wow, that turned out great.
Let's dry that real quick, and then we'll add the last little poppy highlights and some pop highlights on the dolphins, little light.
There it goes. Ah, there. And thank you guys so much. When she gets back in here, we'll finish this up. Then I'm going to go back through and see. I see there's lots of support to you guys in there. Thank you so much. We'll go back through, and I'll make sure we get some shout outs here in just a minute. I'm going to go back, and when you're done, we'll go through all the bubbles.
All right. I'm going to take a little bit of my white.
Let you finish up your eye work. I know it's
hard work.
It's detail oriented.
It is. Well, as soon as we get him all done, then we can do a little party break.
That'll work.
Putting a little yellow into my paint.
What'd you do over there?
I'm going to add some pops of highlight to him.
Just highlighting those little bits up.
highlighting these little bits up. Switch into the round blender when I got to. There we go. A little soft highlight here. Getting these all worked out. And a little of this. Just a little indication of the water, the broken water light.
Mm-hmm.
Especially up here at the top of the head. It's a very light thing.
Yeah.
It's not dissimilar to what you painted up here.
Now this would scale up very easily to any other square size.
Yeah. Scale up to any other square size. And then step back and make sure that those lights, as you can see, they kind of make him seem a little more authentically underwater.
Yeah.
So that's the dolphin. Let's have a cup of
Wow.
coffee, do some bubbles, and
I'm gonna
paint in
look
the
over there.
coral and all these fish.
Wow,
Woo!
these just look really good. Okay,
He's
we'll
looking
up here,
good.
Brett. Whoosh, you're gonna be dolphined out there. So, okay,
I'm
get my
so
little
over this dolphin.
camera over there so we can see you, and we will bubble up because I think. Let's see here. I know for sure that. Where did it go? I saw S. Velen sent a message to you. It was up here and said, "Hey, I'm from Wales," and say a big hello.
Hello, Wales.
So we have lots of friends over in Wales, don't we?
We do. And actually, this is a nice weekend if you're overseas because we're on in the middle of the day, which is a little less middle of the night for you.
It's true. And thank you guys for coming and hanging out with us today. It's really nice we have a really big crowd of folks here on what is today? Saturday?
Saturday. And we're going to be live again tomorrow at 1:20
Are we?
to do the easy sunset dolphin couple double date double dolphin paint.
Oh, that will be so good.
Yeah. And be a very relaxing version of this.
This has gone pretty
So relaxing and easy.
You know, this has gone super, super fast and very
Has
well.
it?
Yeah, we're only at 58 minutes.
I was going to say, let's put up our intermission.
Do you want to go take a quick break?
And I'm out of coffee.
Oh, okay. Well, I tell you what then. We can definitely go like shh, and then we'll see you guys. Let me see if I can find some music for you. And then there we go. I'm sure we've got some there, and we can turn on over here somewhere. I thought I had a little list of music that I could play for you. And it may have been there it is. There's the music. Let's see, look, there's some underwater stuff and some kind of chill music. I don't know. I like house music, so pretty much everything I like has 4 on the floor. But there you go. Some fish and some music while Cinnamon makes coffee. Yeah. So we'll be back. Don't worry. Just, change your water, get something to eat, and enjoy the fish. See you guys in a little bit. So you guys enjoying those little fish stuff in the background? You
Are
there,
they
Cin?
enjoying their fishy fish?
They're enjoying it. I
They're
got an audio on.
complimentary fish.
They are. So they're listening. Cinema's still not in the studio, so I haven't.
I'm
got
in the
cameras.
studio.
Are you? You're still working your way around. Don't
I'm
worry.
working my way around, but I'm in the studio.
Yeah. So
I just had to put it. It's so hot and dry today. I have to put out some fresh paint.
All right.
They can see me do it. I don't mind. Oh, seagrass.
It's like a seagrass.
See the rippling light? Can you see it? That's what we're talking about. That's what we had to put out. See, you can see the bands of the light being broken up, rippling over the seagrass. Wow, maybe we should observe that video before we start painting.
There. Where's the button that makes that happen? There it is. There you are. See?
He's in an aquarium. He has very direct and consistent lighting.
He has direct and consistent lighting.
Which lets you know, and honestly, a couple weird spots of lighting. There's the bright overhead light and then that side light. So he clearly is not in the sea.
Yeah.
He's not under
what about
the
this
sea.
guy? This guy's in the sea.
That guy is in the sea.
It's a big guy.
But he's below the drop point of light.
Oh.
And they're lighting him with some other source from their dive. We could play the game. Can you tell the lighting? That'd be a fun art game. What lighting? See, there's his overhead.
That's a good one.
That's nice and dispersed. You can see it hitting the rocks and everything in the diffusion. Oh, the bubbles from the scuba divers down there. Oh, is that an aquarium? No, that's not in the sea.
That's out in the ocean.
That's out in the ocean. So those bubbles have to be divers.
That's really cool.
That is pretty awesome. And he's pretty awesome. Okay. We're teaching a painting if you just came by here. I don't know why we're looking at videos of sea creatures.
I don't know. That's what we do when we were on break.
That's what we do when we're on a break. I'm going to sip my coffee. You guys have your coffee? I put out some fresh paint. I'm going to change to some fresh water. And I'm going to show you a little trick about these situations where you have a lot of little micro mixes of color that you've got to do.
Yeah.
A lot of times I do it on the fly with my brush because that's easy for me. But sometimes it's really hard when you're new to catch all your values. So one of the tricks that you can do in relationship to that is pre-mix up some stuff. So if we were to say, take our phthalo blue and our ultramarine blue and mix them together and call this our medium tone, right? And we would take some of that here and mix it with some black. We'll call that our shadow value. Right? Put that here. And I'll mist it so it doesn't dry out. And then I'll wipe off my thing and I'll grab some of my blue and a good bit of my titanium white, and I'm going to mix a highlight color. So very quickly, I have 3 values. Now I can adjust these values. I can adjust the color of these values. I can adjust the hue of these values very easily. But now I'm not having to mix and paint as much. I've got some green. If I want to green it up, I can put out a little yellow if I want to yellow it up as I'm coming forward. But the main point is that now I have some depth and density. So here we are. We have some of these background things. I'm back into my number 12 round blender. Just because let's be honest, it makes some good rocks, doesn't it? And I'm going to take my dark color. And I'm going to start to paint in these distant little shapes that could be out here. Little shadows, bits of stuff that we would be talking about from our coral. Random shapes. Not really random because we can see them there, but so then because I have that, I can come in and Mix a half tone easily between my middle mix and my highlight mix. And come in here and start to fill in the spaces between the deep shadows. Blend those in. So that they're soft and not harsh. You can see right away that sort of creates a very soft, wonderful little seabed.
Mm.
Well, the seabed is having a little bit of a rest. I'm going to take my number 4 round and I'm going to mix my shadow and my mid blue. And I'm going to make a bunch of strange little marks. These are little weird distant fish.
Mm.
You're little distant fish. Always. Always. I challenge you to find a Lawson painting without weird little distant fish. Because they're always there. The reef is busy. Nemo did not lie to you about that. Did overestimate the parental commitment of a clownfish by a bit. They're pretty good parents. I'm not sure the whole sea parents. And I think most fish operate in Dory's world of what were we doing again? Because if they could remember anything, they would come get us.
That's true.
Could be like, that needs to be dealt with before the sharks or anything else. Those floaty things on the water, sink them all. Make small dots, make big ones. You want them to go different directions because schools of fish do different things. And you do want them to have different values. Interestingly enough, I'm going to come into my highlight color. A couple of places, I will add highlights. The little touches.
Mm-hmm.
These are the weird little tails that are, because they're mildly colorful fish. So when you add the little highlights, it makes them feel a little more real.
I'm going to zoom in those little fish there for them.
And I'm going to come into my highlight color now that we've got this. And I guess my far back highlight is just a little darker than my coming forward highlight. So I will capture it with my halftone.
Athena would like to really thank you for going out of your way to do the gridding. That really helps, and she really appreciates that.
I'm really glad the gridding is helping. I know it's not for everybody, which is why I always do the traceable, but when you're ready for it, it's a powerful tool.
Mm-hmm.
You can see that you can be kind of general in some of your stuff about your background. And the reason that you can is it's far away. You can change the texture of the brushstroke, indicate different types of coral events. And as we come forward, we can get into a little bit of our yellow and a lot more of our white. See how suddenly that makes the density in the middle ground, foreground, background just a lot easier to accomplish.
Mm-hmm.
Down here through what is the seabed, I'm going to continue to come back and add little small shadows. And the reason we add little small shadows and change this up a bit is because the seafloor has personality. It is not one and done. It is not a monolith. Like
Mm.
people, it's not a monolith. We have to stop treating natural things like they're a monolith because they're not. They do all kinds of weird and unexpected things. Lots of differentials and personalities and stuff we need to talk about. Adding a little yellow, just a bit. Some of this here, kind of distant outcropping of something. I'm just taking my number 4 round and I'm just wiggling some of that in. Saying, hey! And I can go right back in and I can take yellow into that black blue mix. Let's get a little dark shadow going. That's a nice little element, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we can also get a bit of white going. Love painting undersea landscapes. These little strokes are kind of curved. You may have to paint out your little fish here, or at least paint into him a good bit. All right. Wonderful, weird little set of lines there, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
And let's get into green space, undersea green. I'm going to dry it so it'll take the next part.
Okay. So, yep, making sure you get those layers dry between layers. And that just makes sure that you don't pick up any of the paint. And there you go.
There you go. It just needs a little dry. Sometimes painting is knowing that your stuff needs to dry. I'll go ahead and make sure we have a little of this down around the sides. It's always okay to take a little bit of whatever you're doing around the side. Even if it's not fully defined, it's just good to carry the color through. If you're not going to frame. If you are going to frame, don't worry about it. All right. There we go.
Katie was asking,
Hi, Katie.
what's your favorite thing to paint?
Horses.
Horses?
Yeah. Definitely horses.
you doing there?
I'm making little defining on the toe of my brush, which is this pointy part. My number 4 highlights. Just added a bunch of white
Mm-hmm.
to sort of define this little coral structure, this little sponge structure. These are the distant ones of it hanging out, but they're enough where we can kind of see them. And if we want to layer the orange into them, we've got to get these kind of worked out.
Mm-hmm.
Come in and get a little of my shadow. Now I've taken my phthalo green and my black and my blues together. Adding some shadows to a few key places to create depth in that distant object. Same here. I'm going to take this, I'm wiggling my brush and making irregular diffuse shapes, right?
Mm-hmm.
A little yellow, a little white. We know it's something, but we don't have to see exactly what it is. It's distant, it's out of focus. We just want to know it's there. Okay, let's put out some of our fun colors. Let's put out our quinacridone. Quinacridone, quinacridone, quinacridone. Cad red. Cad red, cad red. And I do think I'm going to want some cad red light, which is cad orange in some paint lines, I think. It's a very bright color, and you can see it's just a psychotically. Oh no, I put the paint where you can't see me.
Oh, don't worry, you're not going to be there.
Okay. All right. Sorry, guys. So sorry. I'm gonna put some purple out. Some Doc's purple. As you do. And I do have my Tight Knit yellow there, but we'll just see if I need it. Tight Knit yellow is a cool green yellow and sometimes can be very useful. Sometimes it is not necessary. Oh, I didn't even sip my coffee. Let's sip my coffee.
You sip your coffee?
Yeah, do we have any bubbles or things we can do?
We have all sorts of bubbles and things we can do. We can say bubbles.
Bubbles.
And thank you guys for all the...
Bubbles.
Thank you for hanging out and being part of our community. And really, just really appreciate you guys. Enjoying your
He's looking good.
He is. He's looking really good.
When the up close objects happen, he's going to be like, pow, pow, pow.
I'm going to scroll up here. Yeah.
We've been bringing it lately. Big paintings, detailed paintings, easy paintings. You guys are going to freak out when you see the new series of fantasy paintings coming now. If you love the previous fantasy paintings, you're going to go gaga.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm really
Did you like
enjoying
book stairs? You're going to freak out when you see what's coming.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I saw that earlier you were working on.
Midnight gardens with arches and architectural elements and magic. Those are happening.
Pretty awesome. Yeah.
Castles in the sky. With, oh my goodness. Just so you're going to just freak out. It's wonderful. And busy.
I'm going to zoom out on this, get a nice view of the of your dolphin guy there so we can. He's looking pretty good there.
I'm going to mist all my paint.
Yeah. Is it misting time?
It's misting time. Da, 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 da.
Right.
I am taking all my reds and sort of mixing them together and adding a little of my yellow. And let's start coming here.
Adding more layers.
Why not? I say to you, why not, why not, why not? Why not, why not, why not? Why not, why not, why not? Add more layers.
More layers.
So, coral, this is the brightest coral I could find recently. A recent photo has been bleached out all over the world, gone through several bleaching events. And so it doesn't look like coral anymore. And I find as an artist, what I've got to do then, and take a little of my Doc purple into this, is paint coral like it should be, not like it is. I'm adding a little zinc white to it so we can just see it. So when you're painting it, and I'm doing a push technique because I'm trying to create a textural effect. To talk about the fingers of this coral being up, and then I'll find the fingers when I highlight it. And then I'll go ahead and I'll make a little fan here, little shelf. Again, more human than human.
Mm.
More nature than nature. More nature than nature. Because nature's sucking right now. It's not having a good time, is the nature. Mm-mm. It's not having fun. Mm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Some little brainy things here. These are like little brains. They're not really brains, but they're going to be. And I'm giving a deep dark purple underwork, so when I paint it in, it feels like what it is. So these zones are very colorful. Very colorful. I'm adding a little of this purple to the orange, which you can see kind of tones it back.
So there's a funny comment.
Hmm.
So Gypsy Heart says, book series coming up, question mark?
Yes.
Gnomes rule, question mark?
Yes.
The land, question mark?
Miss Village, hi! Are you loving book 8? I'm loving it. I'm loving it. I'm loving it. How are you doing? I'm in the group, but I don't say anything, so I feel really weird there. Sorry, had a fan moment.
Okay.
Anyways,
What were you doing?
I'm painting, I think. I think I'm painting.
Yep.
Okay. So I'm going to come here. And we're going to continue the different types of oranges and the different types of textures. Notice how everything right now is a textural breakdown.
You just go right back to painting like that didn't happen.
Well, I mean, we know. We know. Rose Swan gets it. He knows. Chicken and eggs. We know. Also been a very interesting book, like cussing wise. Like I think I learned some new insults that I did not know. And also a lot about the author.
You know,
That was either intentionally or not intentionally revealed. I'm not entirely sure.
Rosan and Ron Swanson.
Shh. People might not have read it. You have to put up a spoilers alert. It's a rule. So fun fact, I've had posts removed from the group. So if you're on Facebook and you ever feel frustrated in my group, know what happens to me too. Mine was removed because I think they didn't get the bag of holding joke, but I think they thought I was selling a handbag instead of saying that a handbag that cost $20,000 ought to be a bag of holding.
Mm-hmm.
Is what I was saying. I was like, I'd buy Prada if it was a bag of holding.
So, like...
But they were like, she's selling handbags. I'm like... And it's hard to be funny in that group.
So
it is because they're so funny.
There's like
and I'm not that funny.
There's like 3 people who know what you're talking about.
Sorry, I'll stop. Okay, so back to taking some dark colors and mixing it through the orange. Now my little fish is sort of surrounded by color. And it's okay that some of these colors mute out because we want it to pop up, but not be like every element of it that bright. Now we come through and we create some detail here. So this orange, right? And come through. I'm going to add just a smidge of green to it, smidge of yellow. Is it really 3 people, though? That's
No.
kind of exciting to me, too.
There's 3 people who know what I'm talking about? Oh my gosh. It's a book series you read.
It's a book series I read. I started it at the last Made It Con that I was invited to, which I think was the last Made It Con I was invited to. Anyways, I started it leaving Tennessee and just got sucked in and was like really into it. I'm going to get more into my yellow here. It can be, if you have a sensitive constitution, it can be a little bit rough or violent. It can be. So there we go. We got a little bit of a coral coming in. And take some of our pink. Now we're going to come in here, leaving the shadow. Now we're creating those little textures. And then I've got some over here that I could do. Capture these little wiggly lines. I think I got so excited. I like painted this like weird. Ah!
I think it looks great.
Add a little yellow and white. I just want to kind of create a little highlight color.
So now they're curious, what book series?
It is The Land by Alaron Kong. He's a doctor who became an author, and he's the father of modern lit RPG, according to all the marketing.
Literature role-playing games.
Yeah.
Which is
I really figure it's Dragonlance.
It's narrated World of Warcraft.
Yeah, but is it Dragonlance RPG?
Dragonlance
It's
wasn't...
lit RPG, isn't it?
Well, no. Dragonlance was more of a series. That was a story that was told in the Dungeons & Dragons universe, loosely
But they
speaking.
played it to write it, but it didn't use the stats and everything to explain it.
Correct. Which is where your lit RPG, where it that's, again, it's like a narrated role-playing game.
I've always wondered, but I don't want to get booted, so I never asked.
Oh, really?
No. Well, because hey, I'm very happy to be where I am. I get early notifications of releases and things that I don't want to get booted.
Yeah, no. But, that's a...
You don't want to get kicked out of the Miss Village. It's a hot mess out there. Protection is only with your own. So I have some little finger corals. Hi, I teach art. If you'd like to learn some of that. I'm going to take a little of my orange over to my yellow. And here I'll just...
Oops. There you are.
Little bits of yellow. It's still orange, but it's just compared to everything that's going on around it. I haven't done the fish yet either. So many fish. I shouldn't have put in so many fish. What was I thinking? Need a little more orange. Sometimes you'll be doing a thing and you'll be like, oh, that's just a little bit brighter than I wanted. So you rethink it. A lot of times when I'm painting, I have a book, audio book going.
Mm-hmm.
And I like Nick Podell, who reads that. There's a couple people who read the books that I'm into. So I got like
Well, it's funny because the audiobook for The Land uses uses a lot of the same generic sounds that video games use.
it
And
does.
well, so this is the thing is that you have to understand like
I'm
games
getting a darker mix of my orange here. Keep
okay,
going.
I fell into a dork hole there.
No,
Nobody
dork hole
cares.
up.
Well, I was going to say that video games, like all the old ones, like World of Warcraft, only had 2 or 3 companies to get sound effects from. So if you've ever played like StarCraft or Warcraft, then you've heard all the sound effects that are available for video
It's
games.
very comforting.
And so,
And also, weirdly, it's comforting to listen to so this book series is very heavy on the stats,
mhm.
and it's comforting to hear the gameplay thinking for me. I find it very calming when the main character is like figuring out like what areas of his character to level up, or what powers to enable, or what spells to cast, like all those things. The thought process behind the gaming of it, I find super comforting. It's like a bedtime story for me.
I think it's funny because whenever he levels up and the ding ding is the same sound that World of Warcraft uses for the auction house. So,
I think that's on purpose.
well, I
I
don't know
am
that it's on
taking my
purpose.
12 round, and I'm going to get into my zinc, my tinting white, and come here and make some little.
I'd say it's because we all use sound ideas for the sound library.
But we're all on the same sound library.
Yeah, sound ideas, the general. I mean, it's been around since I don't know 1 billion years ago, and
It's not new.
it's not new. And if you're looking for sound effects, the general from Sound Ideas. Tell Elliot up there I sent you.
I'm going to come back with some. I've added some titanium white to the mix so I can highlight these, and I'm using my round blender because you'll notice that it has this wonderful natural engaged texture. Allows me to paint that different texture of coral. That's the big thing about corals, is you want to have different textures and different effects as you're going. I'm kind of doing that under the fish here a bit, I think. That's good. Gonna get some yellow in my number 4 round again. Bright yellow bit of coral. I'm gonna get some white. I'm gonna come along the edge of this. Fan it in.
These really turned out nice.
I'm stippling this coral. Up and down motion, just giving it a little bit of texture. It's fun. I like doing it. I like it. I like it. I like it. I'm going to take my cad red into my docks purple.
Mm-hmm.
Makes a gorgeous wine color. and a great shadow color for things that are orange and red. I'm going to just put some shadows into my coral. Wonderful. I'm taking my cad red and my cad red light.
Which yellow are you using?
Cad red, a cad yellow. I didn't get into my Naples yellow.
Is it cad yellow medium?
Yeah, cad yellow medium. I'm just stippling that out so it has a bit of a texture feeling to it.
A view of that. That looks really good.
Isn't that fun? I haven't even had any fish yet. It's already kind of a fantasy. Now I'm going to come in here with a little bit of a highlight along this edge. Add some waves to that. Little bank of coral. Little bank of coral. Little bank of coral. A little yellow and my orange here. Just catch the tips of those. Some very light white. Along this bit of coral. And highlight some of it, not all of it. Add a little bit below the fish. So everything's a bit colorful, right? It's colorful in the range of here. I'm going to stand back and take a look at it for a second.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have fish.
Wow.
So we will have done a project. This certainly is worthy of our turtle.
Yeah.
Right? In the wave. This little ocean story needs another layer. And that's important. I'm going to get clean water now. Because I'm going to yellow and I'm going to be doing these fish, and the fish are bright, and I want my fish to remain bright.
You have clean?
I do.
Okay.
And I'm taking some light yellow because I want to highlight some of these bits of coral. Sometimes it's nice just to do little touches, little events. All right. Fishy, fishy, fishy. So I have this weird little blue fishy. He's a nice shape. Let's paint him in. I'm taking my light coral mix with white. And that's the starting of my little fishy. Again, comes up and his little face curves down. Pay attention to the shapes of their bodies when you're just painting them. That's really what you've got to do with fish. Shapes of their bodies and markings.
Mm.
I flick back for the fin. And I'll flick back for this fin.
I'm going to try to peek over your left shoulder there.
Right now, doesn't look like a lot. That's okay. This guy will be a little bit easier to do. I'm going to take some my white and yellow. He's kind of like a little curvy bum. Curvy bum. Curvy bum. And on paintings like this, I think it's super fun to just add as many types of fish as you want. I'm going to add a few fish because for time. But if you have like clownfish that you like or other fish that you like, I highly suggest adding them. Adding a little tail here. I'm going to come in on him and go ahead and add that little tail. Just the beginnings of it.
Mm-hmm.
So we know that that's going on. Let's if when you look at it and I'm feeling like it might be busy, the other fish, I might add one more fish. I feel like these guys might be a little busy. I'll put this one much further back, I think.
It looks pretty good there.
Yeah. So at least there's 3. I want a balancing number of fish.
Mm.
I had a lot more purple here when I put these in, and I kind of went yellow for the painting. So for me, I think it'll be... He's kind of coming in an angle. Better to keep it there. I am using this off-white, this yellow-white right now. Kind of cover the canvas, and I'm going to dry everything, and then I'm going to paint him a fish.
That makes sense.
And then I will have fish! And you will have fish!
There we go. I found the button. So, yeah, just make sure you thoroughly dry your fish so that when you put the next layer of color on the fish, then it will stick on top of that layer instead of peeling that layer off and making it icky and gooey and not fun. So, in general, make sure you thoroughly dry between layers. And that will help make sure your paint does not stick or goo or act up. Oh, and don't use heat during the during this drying part because you can make the paint sticky.
What?
If you use heat,
Yes.
you can make the paint sticky.
You can make the paint sticky.
So don't
For a little
do that.
bit, it'll cool down. It'll be okay.
Yeah, you just gotta put, like, when you go on there, it can, if you don't thoroughly dry, it will delaminate.
True that.
And if it's not thoroughly dry, it can be tacky.
Tacky.
Nobody likes.
Go ahead and start. I'm just taking pure phthalo blue. I'm going to start to paint this little guy in. So true, though, isn't it? It can be tacky. As I go forward, I will...
I am the world's foremost expert on paint drying outside of golden paint.
I doubt that's true, but I think that's funny. Mostly just because I haven't done a study of paint experts outside of golden on this subject.
Maybe Sherman-Williams has some paint drying experts too.
I'm going to get some of my orange here.
But I'm probably in the top 10 people who've watched paint dry.
Well, in that you have watched a lot of paint dry because you were stuck in the studio with me, boy, that is true. I'm going to bring some lines down. Just a little bit of color on that fish, fish, fish. A little bit of color on the fish, fish, fish. Who has a little bit of color?
Mm.
And come here with a little white line. Under that belly. A little bit coming down here on the little fish. Let's change it to a little yellow fin. Got a little yellow fin. He's got a little yellow fin. He's got a super yellow fin. And then we'll come back with black to make his markings. Now this guy, I'm going to take my kind of dark color and add some white to it. Because I'm just giving him some texture and some shading. We are nearly there, guys.
I know.
I may even...
Ooh, just blendy, blendy.
Yeah, just
Smooth
blend him
them out.
in, smooth it out. Let's get into our black. Again, you just do the little markings. And that's how you get a little fish.
Mm-hmm.
So then he's like, oh, there's a little fish there. Yes, there is a little fish. You can even take a little bit of my white and add a bit of a highlight to the eye, just so you can see it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this gorgeous baby's kind of like a series of oranges and yellows. And strange stripes. You just paint what you see. Oh, I got a fin here and another little fin there. Just starting to see his little stripy stripes.
Mm-hmm.
And I go here. And then very loosely, and I have a similar thing back here. Not too much.
Mm-hmm.
Make a dark line. That was a mix of cad red and purple. I have to get some more water on here so that the paint comes off my brush easily. Come along the top of the fin and right here, a couple places. The guy that's far away gets very little detail.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm going to get some pure white. Sometimes it can be hard to get it like just on the tip of your brush. So that's what you're trying to do. Let me put my pure white out closer, fresher. Sometimes what I've got to do is I've got to put out fresh white just so that it flows off my brush nicely. So let's try this again. Oh, there we go. Just putting the markings that you see, where you see them. Maybe the top of him has a little bit of extra. Shading the top of the fish. What you're going for is just the space in which you're happy. Right? That's the point that you're looking for. Now we create a lot of dimensionality and personality to our fish.
Now, Linda asks a question that I will ask rhetorically. Could you use a smaller brush for the fish?
You could. If it felt helpful.
But you tend to refuse to do so. You're like, I have this brush. I will use it.
I do tend to get a little pig-headed about the brush I'm on.
You're just like, the brush I have is the brush I use.
It took me a long time to like realize I've got to change brushes for the show. Like I initially, now everyone's like, you use so many different brushes. Why? And I'm like, well, because like, here's why. I wasn't gonna, but I realized that otherwise I would just paint a whole piece.
With one brush.
So I don't really like this yellow blob. And I'm going to change it to something I do like. Make it look more like a fan coral. It's like, I don't like the kind of coral you are, so change.
You changed it. You're like, you're a now an anemone.
No, it's a fan coral.
Okay, see, I can say that. Fan coral.
No, else goes wrong on an undersea painting, just make it a fan coral. Trust me on this.
I try to say that other thing.
When anything goes wrong on your undersea painting, make it a fan coral.
Mm-hmm.
Just lean into that reality. There we go. So that's a nice little counter texture.
Mm-hmm.
That works. All right. I feel like we visited this painting long enough.
I'm going to go back and look at it. Oh, you know, this is really good.
You happy with this?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know where my monogram liners are, so I'm going to sign with this. Not my favorite, but I'm going to.
You know, this is a little sea quest to me.
Is it?
Just a little bit.
Well, that's
Just
back when coral had color.
Back when coral was colored.
Back when coral had color. All right, let's take it in. Let's bring it in. Let's evaluate it on its own merits.
On its own merit. I like it. I think it turned out all right.
Yeah.
I don't know where the Sherpa went, though. Sherpa's gone.
I'm just like, sometimes I got to look at a piece and just take it in, you know?
Gotta take it in.
Yeah, I'm actually pretty happy with that.
I'm
That goes
pretty
really
happy.
well with the sea turtle. Okay, we can go forward.
We can go forward.
Should we put it here?
Sure.
So there we go.
There we go.
Another 3 hoot Saturday. If you want the 1 hoot dolphin painting, that's a double dolphin, double date night painting. 2 canvases, 9x12. 2 silhouette dolphins making a heart. A tropical sunset. Very beginner friendly. Very perfect to get your partner who hasn't painted with you to paint with you.
Mm-hmm.
Be good to yourself. Be good to each other. And I want to see you at an easel really soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.